Hey guys, Noah from Stage 3, and today we're going to be taking a look at my 2014 Tremor Overland build. Now for those of you guys that pay attention to all the content that we put out, you've probably already seen the video that we did on this truck about a year ago when we first completed this build. And while everything was pretty solid on it at that point, I still drive it and use it on a day-to-day basis, so there's a lot of updates and things that have changed over this last year to kind of just refine it and tweak it and make it a bit better. So we're gonna just kind of do a walk around on the truck here, and I'll show you what parts I've added, what's been taken off, or what was altered, and give some reasons as to why I changed those things. But we'll start right here at the front. The most immediately noticeable thing is this big NFAB pre-runner bar that I put on here, and the whole purpose of that was just to hold these LP9s on the front of the truck. There are aftermarket bumper options and things that I could have maybe made work, but most of those are designed to work with light bars for these F-150s, whereas with the LP9 being a round light, the options were a bit more limited, and I also didn't want to add a bunch of weight to the front of this truck. So this NFAB bar was a good option to get something that'll mount the lights, hold them a little bit steady, and it doesn't weigh down the front end. Now the lighting obviously on the front is pretty hardcore. These LP9s, even just one of them puts out a lot of light in a pretty good arc. They have like a 200-degree arc or something like that. The way I have it set up is basically the ones on the corners there are angled out slightly, and those are combo beams, so I get a nice spread of light all in front of the truck with some decent distance on it. And then the one in the center is just a straight up spot right out ahead of me, and that gives me a really good fill of light all around the trail and anywhere I'm pointed. That way I don't have to worry about things sneaking up on me, or if I'm driving with a bit of speed, a little bit more spiritedly, I have a chance to see what's coming up. And part of the reason for this is some of you guys may have experienced with these HID headlights and even LED fog lights and everything, you can get a decent amount of light output from the front of the truck, but a lot of times the beams cut it off pretty low, and there's not always a ton of distance on those lights. So I was having a lot of trouble with just the headlights cutting off and not seeing anything hanging down into the trails, or not getting good distance or good visibility if I was coming up on a hill or things like that. It would just be kind of a dark block right in front of the truck with all the light scattered onto the ground. So this really compensates well for that, and the LP9s are super durable. You can see they're all caked up in ice and snow, and they have had zero issues so far. I've beat them around in the mud, the dirt, rain, sand, everything you can think of, and they've held up perfectly. So the next thing that changed on my truck was the tires that I had set up on here. Now the wheel is still the same method, 17-inch NV with that machine finish, and the suspension is all the same with the Icon 2.5 coilovers up front and the 2.0 rear shocks. So none of that really altered. It was really just the tires as far as stuff down here is concerned. But what I did is basically swapped out the KM2s that I was running, which was BFG's older mud terrain that's now been replaced by the KM3, and swapped in some KO2s, which is their all-terrain that they do. To be honest, the KO2 is probably one of my favorite tires that we sell, and really that's on the market currently. They're just an excellent all-terrain. They really work well anywhere you need them. Obviously here they're all packed up with snow and mud, and they've been performing excellent out here in Williams, but I've had my fair share of time on these on other vehicles and with this truck in the sand and in the dirt out in the desert. You know, even on some really like rocky and gnarly terrain, they take abuse pretty well. These tires are actually sized up a bit from the KM2s that I had on here. The KM2s I was running were about a 32-inch, and these are actually a 34.5 roughly. So what the exact size is a 315/70/17, and that's actually the same size and same tire here that you get on the Raptor, which is a really good fit on these trucks if you have a bit of suspension to clear it. I really like the way that these perform both on and off-road. One other thing I added underneath this truck is actually a full set of RCI steel skid plates. They're basically the full kit to cover both the engine, transmission, and transfer case, and that's just basically a nice barrier to have between the rocks and the vitals of the truck. And I've been super pleased with all of RCI's other products, so this was one of those things that I wanted to get on there both for the sake of the truck and just to have peace of mind. With all that out of the way, let's move around to the back of the truck, and I'll show you some of the things that changed accessory-wise to really make this Overland setup a little bit better for what I do. So around back here, the biggest change that happened is that I went ahead and added this deck system. Now this actually came out of our hunting truck, which we just recently got rid of to make way for that new Raptor build that we've been doing. But before we got rid of it, I managed to score this bad boy to throw in here, and this has been a really nice upgrade for camping equipment, tools, and really just all the general utility things that you end up carrying with a build like this. So as you can see, we have pull-out drawers, and the way I have it set up is this drawer is basically all of my tools and some recovery gear and things like that. And then this other drawer is filled up with camping gear and air compressor, some kitchen items, my little stove, things like that. So all the essentials for spending a couple nights out in the woods. Now I do have my spare sitting in the bed. I used to have it mounted on a Wilco rack on the back here, but it was blocking the sensors for the rear bumper, and it also kind of blocks the backup camera, which on a day-to-day basis isn't really ideal, and it started to get a bit annoying, to be honest. So especially with running a 34-inch spare like that, it's pretty big and heavy too, so it worked out well to just throw it up in the bed. It's out of the way, it stays in place, and I can still get to it easily if I need it. So that's worked out really well, and it keeps the back of the truck nice and clean. On the top side of the bed here, not much has changed from what you guys have seen previously. I'm still running the RCI rack setup with the Free Spirit Recreation tent up there, and this has just been tried and true. I really, really love camping with this setup, and there's nothing that I've wanted to alter with it because it really just gets the job done. The tent is very comfortable in cold conditions. It's held up well to lots of wind and rain without leaking through. It's about as warm as you can get for a tent typically, and it stays plenty stable on this rack setup. So I've been very pleased with that, and like I said, really not much has changed there other than the addition of a few quick latches on the other side to hold a shovel and an axe, which I use when I'm setting up camp or for recovery. So that's been a great upgrade to have on this truck, and I probably won't ever change while I have this. One of the final upgrades I did on this truck was a Stainless Works chambered exhaust system, and this is basically a full stainless steel 3-inch tubing system that deletes the resonator but has the chambered muffler, which is a little bit quieter than their S-tube muffler. And this kit has been really great, fits super cleanly. It's obviously, with it being stainless, it's going to be resistant to rust and inclement weather conditions, and it also looks good. Now, originally the truck did have a factory exhaust on it, and then we were running a 4-inch prototype kit for a while, but I had some issues with fitment with the 4-inch just being so big and also not completely clearing the leaf springs. So when the truck would articulate or bounce around off-road, there were some problems there. But with this stainless system, a lot of that has been alleviated, and it seems to fit perfectly without impairing the abilities of the truck off-road, which is exactly what I want. So guys, that's gonna wrap up our walk around and update on this Overland build. Obviously, I'm probably gonna continue to keep driving this and building this as we continue on, but this gives you an idea of some things that I wanted to fix and change along the way to really make this truck just right for what I do. And if you guys are interested in getting more of the nitty-gritty details on this build, we'll have a link down in the description for the full project page on this. And while you're down there, also make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss any of our other videos, installs, and reviews, all the stuff we're cranking out on a weekly basis for you guys, and I will see you next time.